Texas, land of wide open spaces, no state income tax, and that legendary southern charm. But beneath the surface of booming cities and big skies, there's a growing exodus that's hard to ignore. Families, professionals, even lifelong Texans, they're packing up and moving out. Why? The reasons might surprise you. From the crushing cost of living to extreme weather and hidden lifestyle trade-offs, we're uncovering 10 shocking and often overlooked reasons people are fleeing the Lone Star State right now. And trust me, number 7 is something almost no one is talking about, but it's changing lives. If you're thinking about relocating or simply want to understand what's shifting in modern America, this is the video you need to see.
Number 1. The cost of affordable living has exploded. For decades, Texas carried the reputation of being a financial haven, a place where families could stretch their dollars, own spacious homes, and live comfortably without the heavy burden of state income tax. But in recent years, that narrative has changed drastically. The myth of affordable Texas is starting to unravel as residents face a surge in living costs that's catching many off guard. Housing prices in cities like Austin, Dallas, and even smaller metros have skyrocketed, driven by an influx of out-of-state buyers, limited inventory, and booming demand. Renters aren't faring much better. Average rents have increased by over 20% in some areas in just the last couple of years. And while wages have grown modestly, they haven't kept pace with rising housing costs, making it harder for everyday Texans to make ends meet. But the pressure doesn't stop at rent or mortgages. Texas has some of the highest property taxes in the country, a hidden cost that many newcomers don't anticipate. What you save on income tax, you often end up paying through the roof in annual property tax bills. And utility costs, insurance premiums, and food prices have all inched upward, eroding the financial breathing room Texas was once known for. This kind of financial strain isn't just frustrating. It's exhausting. Constant stress over bills and housing costs can lead to decreased focus, poor sleep, and even long-term health issues. It affects productivity, mood, and ultimately our ability to live intentionally and well. So what can you do if you're considering a move, whether to Texas or from it? Don't just look at flashy salary figures or base home prices. Assess total affordability by factoring in property taxes, insurance rates, commuting costs, and the real cost of necessities in the area. Use tools like cost of living calculators and budget planners to run real-world scenarios. And most importantly, consider how the environment you're moving into will impact your day-to-day peace of mind. Financial freedom isn't just about earning more money. It's about living somewhere that lets you breathe, save, and thrive.
Number 2. The heat isn't just hot, it's unlivable. Texas has always been known for its warm weather, but what used to be hot is now becoming outright dangerous. In recent years, the state has seen unprecedented heat waves, not just a few days of discomfort, but weeks on end of temperatures soaring past 100 degrees F, with some areas regularly hitting 110 degrees F or more. And it's not a fluke. Climate studies confirm that these extreme temperatures are becoming the new normal, with Texas ranking among the top states for increased heat exposure due to climate change. But this isn't just a matter of sweating a little more. When temperatures rise that high, it affects nearly every part of daily life. Imagine stepping outside at 9 a.m. and already being drenched in sweat. Running errands becomes a chore, walking your dog feels like punishment, and the thought of doing anything outdoors, even just enjoying your backyard, becomes unbearable. Air conditioners run nonstop, driving up utility bills, and blackouts become a looming threat during peak usage. For many, especially older adults or those with health conditions, this level of heat can be downright dangerous. The impact on productivity is significant too. Studies show that extreme heat impairs concentration, slows down mental processing, and increases fatigue. Whether you're working from home or in an office, trying to stay focused in a stifling environment wears on your energy levels and your mental clarity. And let's not forget the emotional toll. Constant discomfort can heighten stress, irritability, and even symptoms of anxiety. So what can you do if moving away from the heat isn't an immediate option? Start by rethinking your routine. Shift outdoor activities to early morning or after sunset. Invest in quality window coverings and insulation to keep your home cool more efficiently. Stay hydrated constantly, not just when you feel thirsty. And consider using productivity hacks like the Pomodoro technique indoors to stay on track when heat-induced fatigue sets in. Wearing lightweight, breathable clothing and using cooling towels or portable fans can also make a surprising difference. Texas heat isn't just a seasonal annoyance anymore. For many, it's becoming a reason to pack up and find a cooler, calmer place to call home.
Number 3. Work-life balance is slipping away. While Texas has long marketed itself as a land of opportunity, the reality for many residents, especially in booming metro areas like Dallas, Houston, and Austin, tells a very different story. These cities consistently rank low in national work-life balance studies, and it's now hard to understand why. The combination of long, stressful commutes, sprawling urban layouts, and a growing always-on work culture is pushing people to the brink of burnout. Add in the constant digital noise from social media and 24/7 connectivity, and what you're left with is a lifestyle that leaves very little room for recovery, creativity, or meaningful connection. Think about it. A typical workday for many Texans involves waking up early to beat traffic, commuting 45 minutes to an hour each way, working 9 to 10 hours, and still trying to be present for family time, chores, or even a few minutes of personal downtime. That doesn't leave much room for anything restorative. Over time, the lack of boundaries between work and personal life chips away at mental clarity, emotional well-being, and even physical health. It becomes harder to focus, harder to sleep, and harder to find the motivation to keep up, let alone get ahead. And while technology was supposed to free us, it often just ties us more tightly to our to-do lists. With emails, Slack messages, and notifications buzzing at all hours, even weekends don't feel sacred anymore. For many, social media adds another layer of stress, not only from constant comparison, but also from the overwhelming amount of input and distractions it brings into our minds each day. But here's the good news. It is possible to push back. You don't need to overhaul your life. To start with micro boundaries. That might mean turning off work notifications after 6 p.m., scheduling a 10-minute midday walk with no phone, or setting app limits for social media. Tools like time blocking, digital detox periods, or even analog task lists can help restore control over your schedule. And the impact is real. Better focus, more energy, improved sleep, and more meaningful time with the people who matter. For many, the decision to leave Texas isn't just about climate or cost. It's about reclaiming balance in a world that feels increasingly out of sync.
Number 4. Political polarization is driving people out. For many people, living in Texas has started to feel like walking on a political tightrope. The growing divide isn't just about party lines, it's become deeply personal, affecting neighborhoods, workplaces, schools, and even family dynamics. Conversations that once felt casual now come with tension. Social media is flooded with outrage, debates turn hostile quickly, and there's an overwhelming sense that no middle ground exists anymore. This isn't just political discomfort. For many, it's daily mental exhaustion. In Texas, where political identities are sharply drawn and frequently spotlighted in national headlines, this polarization is amplified. Whether it's debates over school curriculums, gun laws, or public health policies, there's a sense that people are being pushed to choose sides, loudly. That intensity is driving some longtime residents to quietly pack up and move to places where they feel less scrutinized or pressured by the ideological divide around them. But here's where it gets even more serious. Studies now show that chronic exposure to political tension can harm mental health. Research from the American Psychological Association found that political stress is a growing source of anxiety and burnout, especially when people feel constantly surrounded by conflict. It doesn't just affect how we vote. It affects how we sleep, how we work, and how we relate to the people around us. And it's not just about in-person conversations. The digital world, particularly social media, often amplifies the worst of political discourse. Algorithms reward outrage and keep us trapped in cycles of negativity. Even brief scroll sessions can flood the brain with anger, frustration, and helplessness, all of which chip away at mental clarity and emotional resilience. If leaving isn't an option, how can you escape the noise? Start with a digital detox strategy. Mute or unfollow accounts that stir up stress. Designate offline hours in your day. No news, no social media, just space to think and breathe. Replace doom scrolling with something nourishing, a book, a walk, even a moment of silence. Create intentional spaces in your life that are free of political pressure and protect them fiercely. In a world where division feels constant, protecting your peace is not a luxury, it's essential. And for some, it's become a deciding factor in where they choose to live next.
Number 5. Healthcare isn't keeping up. Healthcare is something most people don't think about until they desperately need it. And in Texas, more and more residents are discovering just how hard it can be to access quality care, especially outside of the major cities. While the state has grown rapidly in population, its healthcare infrastructure hasn't kept pace. In rural areas, entire counties often have no hospital, no urgent care, and in some cases, not even a single practicing physician. Even in urban regions, long wait times, crowded ERs, and shortages in mental health services are becoming the norm. For many Texans, accessing care means long drives, sometimes an hour or more, just to reach a basic clinic or see a specialist. That's not just inconvenient, it's stressful, time-consuming, and, in some cases, dangerous. Delayed care leads to worsening health conditions, missed workdays, and mounting anxiety. And when people have to choose between paying out of pocket or skipping a doctor's visit altogether, productivity and peace of mind suffer. The numbers are telling. Texas has one of the highest uninsured rates in the country, and a 2023 report ranked it near the bottom in overall healthcare access and quality. Add in rising costs for prescriptions, limited availability of mental health support, and the strain on caregivers, and it's easy to see why many families are reevaluating where they live. But here's the deeper impact. When people feel uncertain about healthcare, it affects more than their bodies. It impacts their energy, their focus, and their long-term stability. Health stress isn't isolated. It spills into work performance, family dynamics, and emotional resilience. You can't be truly productive if your basic health needs aren't being met. So if you're thinking about relocating or even just reassessing your area, don't overlook healthcare. Research ahead of time. Look up local hospital ratings. Check how far the nearest emergency services are, and review the ratio of doctors to residents in the county. See if your insurance is widely accepted. If you rely on mental health services, make sure those are available too. It's easy to get caught up in home prices in school districts, but long-term wellness depends just as much on access to timely, quality care. For many Texans, poor healthcare access isn't just inconvenient, it's a deal breaker. And for some, it's the final push to leave the state altogether. Number 6. Water worries and natural resource strain. When most people think of Texas, they picture open lands, sunny skies, and endless freedom. But there's a growing concern that's turning that dream into a potential crisis: water scarcity. Droughts have become a frequent and increasingly severe reality across large portions of Texas. Lakes are shrinking, aquifers are being depleted faster than they can replenish, and restrictions on water use are becoming more common, even in suburban neighborhoods. It's not just about dry lawns anymore. It's about whether communities can reliably access clean, safe water in the years ahead. Scientific projections only add to the concern. According to studies from the Texas Water Development Board and the U.S. Drought Monitor, many regions are facing long-term water deficits, particularly as population growth continues to explode. More people mean more demand, but Texas's natural resources haven't expanded to match. In fact, the hotter it gets, and Texas is experiencing more extreme heat every year, the more water is needed, not just for homes, but for agriculture, energy production, and emergency services. To bring it down to a personal level, imagine having to ration water during a week-long heat wave. You're told you can only water your garden on certain days, you're asked to limit laundry and long showers, and you start wondering whether there's enough pressure in the system to handle an emergency. That might sound extreme, but it's already happening in some parts of the state, and it's no longer limited to rural towns. The strain on water resources doesn't just create environmental stress, it impacts mental well-being, property values, and day-to-day peace of mind. People don't want to feel like they're living in survival mode, especially when they move to Texas for comfort and opportunity. So what can you do? Whether you're in Texas or anywhere facing resource strain, start by reducing water waste. Install low-flow fixtures, use drought-resistant landscaping, and fix leaks promptly. Collect rainwater if your area allows it, and monitor your utility usage to stay conscious of consumption. These steps don't just lower your bills, they help build resilience in your community. For many residents, the strain on natural resources, especially water, isn't just an environmental issue. It's a quality of life issue. And for some, it's enough to start looking for greener, wetter pastures elsewhere.
Number 7. Suburban sprawl is killing community vibes. One of the things people used to love most about Texas was its strong sense of community. Whether you were in a small town or a cozy suburb outside a big city, there was a neighborly spirit, a feeling that people knew each other, looked out for one another, and genuinely cared. But as Texas continues to grow at a rapid pace, that small-town charm is being paved over, literally. Suburban sprawl is stretching communities thinner than ever, and many longtime residents are feeling the difference. With new housing developments popping up seemingly overnight, once quiet neighborhoods are now buried under endless rows of identical homes, big box stores, and congested roads. What used to be green space or farmland is now concrete and traffic. And while growth isn't inherently bad, the speed and scale at which it's happening in parts of Texas has led to a noticeable decline in community connection. The more people there are, the easier it is to feel like just another face in the crowd. The impact goes deeper than just inconvenience. Studies show that social isolation, even mild forms of it, can affect mental clarity, lower emotional resilience, and even reduce productivity. When you don't know your neighbors, when you spend hours in traffic just to get across town, or when every errand feels like a battle against crowds and delays, it slowly wears you down. Many people who move to the suburbs for peace and space now find themselves overwhelmed, lonely, and disconnected. But here's the thing. Strong community doesn't just happen, it's created. And even if you're living in a sprawling suburb or a busy metro, you can take steps to rebuild that connection. Start small. Join a local group, host a casual gathering, or simply introduce yourself to the neighbors on your street. Look for events at libraries, parks, or farmers markets, anywhere people gather with a shared purpose. Not only does this build social trust, it boosts mental well-being and can even enhance focus and creativity. For many, the decision to leave Texas isn't about politics or weather, it's about chasing that elusive feeling of belonging. When the place you live no longer feels like a community, it's only natural to start looking for one that does.
Number 8. The education equation is shifting. For many families, education is one of the biggest factors when deciding where to live. And in Texas, the equation is becoming increasingly complicated. While the state boasts some high-performing districts, there's growing concern among parents about inconsistent school quality, overcrowded classrooms, and curriculum changes that reflect broader political tensions. From debates over standardized testing to shifts in how history and science are taught, more families are feeling uneasy about whether Texas schools are truly preparing their children for the future. This uncertainty is causing a ripple effect. Parents are spending more time researching alternative schooling options, attending heated school board meetings, or even pulling their kids out of public schools altogether in favor of homeschooling or private education. That adds pressure, both financially and emotionally. When a parent is constantly worrying about whether their child is getting the education they need, it's hard to focus at work, stay organized, or maintain a sense of balance. And it's not just an issue in under-resourced districts. Even in wealthier suburbs, rapid population growth has led to overcrowding, teacher shortages, and declining student-teacher ratios. Add to that the stress of navigating special education services, extracurricular cuts, or safety concerns, and it's easy to see why families are reassessing whether Texas is still the right place to raise kids. But here's the truth. Evaluating a school system goes far beyond just checking its test scores or district rating. Many rankings are based on outdated metrics or narrow data. If you're considering a move in or out of Texas, take a deeper look. Visit campuses if you can. Ask about teacher retention, parent involvement, and extracurricular opportunities. Look at the diversity of programs, support services, and student mental health resources. And perhaps most importantly, talk to other parents in the area to get a real sense of the culture inside the schools. Education doesn't just shape kids, it shapes families. It influences daily routines, long-term planning, and even where people feel emotionally grounded. For some Texas families, the shifting education landscape has been the tipping point. If you feel like the system no longer aligns with your values or your child's needs, it makes sense to consider a fresh start somewhere that does. Number 9. Noise, crowds, and declining peace of mind. Not long ago, many people moved to Texas in search of peace, wider spaces, quieter neighborhoods, and a slower pace of life. But today, many of those once serene areas are unrecognizable. Rapid development and population growth have brought with them constant construction, traffic congestion, and an overwhelming sense of noise, both literal and mental. What was once a quiet morning with birdsong and sunshine might now be filled with the sound of jackhammers, delivery trucks, and the hum of highways expanding ever closer to residential zones. This rising noise pollution, combined with the crowding of public spaces, has taken a real toll on people's mental clarity and peace of mind. Whether you're trying to work from home, raise a family, or simply find moments of stillness, the overstimulation can wear you down. It's not just an annoyance. Studies show that consistent exposure to noise and crowding can disrupt sleep, increase cortisol levels, and contribute to anxiety and difficulty concentrating, especially for remote workers or those managing multiple responsibilities from home. The stress isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's the constant feeling of being on alert, the lack of personal space in grocery stores or parks, or the frustration of trying to find a quiet cafe to work in, only to be surrounded by traffic or a crowd. Over time, these micro-stresses chip away at your energy, your focus, and your overall well-being. But even in overstimulating environments, there are ways to protect your peace. Start by designing your day with intentional quiet moments. Create a simple morning or evening routine that includes silence, even 5 minutes of deep breathing, stretching, or reading without your phone. Use noise-canceling headphones or calming background sounds if you work from home. Try off-peak hours for errands and outings to avoid the busiest crowds. And most importantly, create a physical space in your home, no matter how small, that feels like a sanctuary. It could be a reading corner, a plant-filled balcony, or just a desk with no digital distractions. When peace becomes harder to find, it becomes more important to create it. For many in Texas, the increasing noise and crowding are making them ask, is this the life I wanted, or is it time to move somewhere that lets me breathe? Number 10. It's not the Texas they fell in love with. For many longtime residents, the biggest reason they're leaving Texas isn't a specific policy, weather pattern, or price tag. It's a feeling. A deep, unsettling sense that the place they once loved has changed beyond recognition. It's the way the skyline looks different, how the roads are constantly jammed, or how their once quiet neighborhood now feels like a strip mall with no soul. It's the subtle loss of identity, the community bar that closed, the school that shifted its values, or the cultural fabric that now feels frayed. Over time, these small changes add up, and the Texas they fell in love with no longer feels like home. Many people can relate to that moment when you stop and think, this just isn't the same anymore. Maybe it's the influx of people from other states that's changed the vibe. Maybe it's the pace, faster, louder, more disconnected. Or maybe it's just that Texas has grown so quickly it didn't have time to preserve the charm, values, and community that once made it feel unique. What used to be a place of wide-open opportunity now feels crowded, complicated, and impersonal for some. That feeling of cultural disconnection is powerful. It influences how happy you feel in your surroundings, how grounded your family is, and whether you can imagine growing older there. And while change is inevitable anywhere, the rapid shift in Texas's identity has led many to ask a hard question: do I still belong here? If you're feeling that way, it doesn't mean you failed. It means you're evolving, and that's okay. The key is to process that change thoughtfully. Start by identifying what truly matters to you now. Is it quiet, community, shared values, access to nature, or the arts? Then research locations that reflect that lifestyle. Don't get caught up in hype or trends. Focus on alignment. And take your time. Visit, explore, talk to locals before making a big move. Texas will always hold a place in many hearts, but for some, it's no longer the right fit. And sometimes the bravest and healthiest choice is to admit that home isn't the fixed place. It's wherever you feel most yourself. So now I'm curious, if you had the chance, would you stay in Texas or start fresh somewhere new? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We actually read them all. And if you found this video eye-opening, check out our last one. It dives deep into another major shift affecting millions right now. We put a lot of time and heart into making videos like this, so if you want to support the channel, just hit that subscribe button. It's one click, but it means the world to us. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.